I never imagined that the most heartbreaking lies of the Middle Ages would cost innocent lives. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. I stood in the dimly lit square, cold stone beneath my feet, heart pounding like a war drum. It was market day, but an eerie silence hung over the crowd. Eyes were wide, faces pale. I could feel the energy, thick, electric, like a storm brewing on the horizon. Whispers swirled around me, accusations, stories dotted with fear and disbelief. Each breath tasted bitter. My hands trembled as I grasped the market's common pole, feeling the rough wooden texture, grounding me momentarily. I glanced around, desperate for familiar faces. Elena, my sister, should have been by my side, selling her simple herbal remedies. Instead, I caught sight of the townspeople. They were huddled together, their murmurs a low hum of terror. "You heard about the Black Witch, right?" someone whispered nearby, eyes darting back to the gallows at the end of the square. I shuddered. The legends had always terrified me. Tales of the mysterious woman rumored to cast spells, weaving shadows into the very fabric of our lives. But she wasn't a witch, she was just a healer, like Elena. Devoted, misunderstood. I clenched my jaw, feeling the weight of the lies pressing against my chest. I knew them, I'd seen them in the villages, the desperate patients, their tear-streaked faces. They didn't have anyone else to turn to. Then there were the guards, towering like grim sentinels, their eyes cold as steel. I could hear the clanging of armor, the sharp jingle creating a syncopation with my heartbeat. Was it me, or did the very air around us crackle with tension? The stench of fear curled in my nostrils. It felt suffocating. Suddenly, a scream shattered the stillness. A woman rushed forward, hair wild, eyes filled with dread. "They found her," she cried. "They've arrested Elena." My heart dropped. I stumbled back, knees weak. This wasn't happening. They were saying she was responsible for the sickness sweeping through the village. How could they? It wasn't her fault. I could hear the rising tide of voices, some in anger, some in fear. A few people turned their backs, unable to bear the unfolding nightmare. My throat tightened, and I fought back tears. I felt utterly helpless. How could I save her? The relentless whisper of betrayal clawed at my insides, but just as I was about to turn and flee, desperate to find her, a chilling silence enveloped us. The town crier emerged, his silhouette framed against the dim light, gravity in his posture. "Hearken to me," he announced, voice booming. My heart raced. "The accused shall be judged, today. If found guilty, she will be executed by sundown." My vision blurred as disbelief collided with disbelief. Elena could die. The reality of the words sunk a dagger deep into my gut. I was paralyzed. All those lives sacrificed for a lie, a rumor echoing through our treacherous hearts. The air felt heavier than ever, suffocating. And at that moment, I realized that saving her would mean going against all the fears I had held for so long. But what if I failed? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The frigid air etched itself into my bones as I staggered backward, head spinning with the tumult of emotions. Elena's face haunted me, warm, compassionate, always ready with a remedy for those in need. My heart was a fragile vessel, threatening to shatter with each passing moment. I felt a profound emptiness where hope once thrived. I had to move. There was no choice but to push through the crowd. As I made my way past whispers and accusing glares, I caught eyes filled with fear, hearts gnawed by doubt. "Are you certain?" I overheard a voice quiver. "She's just a healer, isn't she?" "Fate doesn't care for innocence," replied a hushed voice, bitterness dripping from every word that I made my way through the throng, hands trembling at my sides. Each step deeper into the crowd felt like another nail in a coffin, heavier with the weight of potential loss. Shoulders brushed against mine, and I sensed the silent exchanges: distrust, confusion, but also a flicker of camaraderie among those who mourned what our village had become. A flicker of something glorious emerged as I heard a familiar voice calling my name, wrapped in a gentle tone. "Tamsin! Over here!" It was Father Aidan, the village priest, a beacon of solace amidst chaos. I rushed towards him, collapsing into the folds of his robe, my voice trembling as I spoke. "They've taken Elena. They think she's a witch, child," he murmured, the warmth of his hands resting on my shoulders. "I'm aware. I've witnessed the shadows creeping into the hearts of men, but we must cling to the light." That I gazed into his eyes, searching for wisdom, for the answers to perplexing questions. "How? She's innocent. I cannot allow them. Please, you have to help me," he sighed, a profound sorrow etched in his features. "What they believe is stronger than truth. But if we rally the townsfolk, if we can call upon their hearts, perhaps we can alter their path. You must speak out, the words echoed in my mind, frightening yet liberating. I wanted to shout, to scream her name from the rooftops until every ear in the village paid heed. But what if they only turned against me instead? I wrestled with my fear as I gathered the smallest flicker of courage. "Help me gather people," I whispered, desperation spilling from my lips. "Help me save her." In that moment, Father Aidan took my hand, squeezing it with a fierce determination. "We are not alone in this. And remember, sometimes the smallest voices can stir the soul of a crowd." With renewed resolve unfurling within me, I darted into the marketplace, envisioning the faces of those who had witnessed Elena's kindness. I caught the gaze of Mrs. Maud, her thrifty apron swaying as she haggled for turnips. "Mrs. Maud!" I called out, the tremor in my voice resisting the bitter winds. "You know Elena is no witch. Help me rally together. We can stop this." She blinked, uncertainty clouding her bright eyes, but there was a smudge of recollection there too. "She tended to my Geoffrey when he fell ill, gave him tea sweetened with honey. She saved him." A flicker of hope ignited, and soon my words reverberated throughout the crowd like an echo cast across a still pond. One voice became two, three, rallying like autumn leaves in a storm. Yet, just as resolve began to swell, uncertainty washed over us once more. A figure emerged from the outskirts of the crowd, clad in dark leather. The town constable Henry, his demeanor unyielding, stepped forward. "Silence!" he commanded, and the air around us stilled. "You would defend a witch? By the decree of the magistrate, those who speak for the accused share in her guilt." Gasps rippled through the crowd as fear wrestled with the newly ignited ember of hope. The moment felt suspended in time, a fragile interplay between justice and injustice. Those who had begun to believe now had their faces pinched with doubt. "People have died because of her." Henry sneered, but before he could instill more dread, an unexpected voice broke through the tension. Little Ben, the village boy known for his inhaling laughter, stepped forward, clutching a handmade charm. "Elena made this. For me. I wore it the night I got better." Gasps echoed, eyes widening at the little boy's resolve. Innocence undiluted by skepticism, a reminder of all Elena stood for. The tide of emotion shifted yet again, crackling like fire awakening after a long, cold night, but just as I felt the ripple of change unfurling, a shadow crossed my heart as a voice came from the gale. "Enough. The Black Witch will be judged. My decree is final." I spun around at the sound, the crowd parting as a tall, regal figure appeared, eyes sharp as daggers, framed against the threatening grey of the sky. Lady Vivian, the magistrate's wife, commanded authority. She had never explicitly declared her disdain for Elena, but we all sensed the quiet hatred simmering behind her polished exterior. "Lady Vivian!" I screamed over the rising tide of murmurs, my voice filled with anguish. "You cannot condemn her. She saved lives." Her cold gaze sliced through me. And how many lives has she sacrificed? The choice is clear. The gallows await. The shattering reality of her words settled heavily upon our shoulders. My heart wrenched, the flicker of hope nearly extinguished by the looming darkness. As the people looked to me for guidance, a faint whisper lured my heart. Perhaps, deep within the depths of fear, we could still wrestle with what felt inevitable. But just as I opened my mouth to call upon the strength gathered from within, a distant clang echoed across the square. My skin prickled with recognition. The guards were marching forward, Elena in chains, her defiance shining against the shadows. My spirit faltered. Time seemed to slow. Could I truly find the words to alter our fate, or would we all fall prey to despair and treachery? The very choice that lay before me now felt insurmountable, and I hurled a prayer into the storm brewing around us. Would it carry my plea? And in that moment, with trepidation clutching my chest, I realized the fight was only just beginning. The wind howled as chains rattled, the sound cutting through the intimate stillness of despair that had settled over the crowd. Elena stood at the center, a stark figure amidst the sea of murmurs and gasps, her eyes blazing with a mixture of defiance and vulnerability. Her spirit remained unbowed, even as the guard yanked her forward, the condemned dragging through the cobblestone streets. Tamsin. She cried, her voice a tendril of hope shooting through the chaos, don't you dare. I shouted, moving toward her as if I could bridge the distance that separated us, my heart racing. Elena, tell them you're innocent. You are not a witch, your words will not sway them, dear heart, Elena replied, a bittersweet smile lighting her features. They must first learn to see the truth within themselves, and that is a journey they are reluctant to take. Tears sprang to my eyes, but I blinked them away, resolute not to abandon the fight. Not if I can help it. You've healed so many. Please, just hold on. As despair weighed heavily on my shoulders, I cast my gaze around the crowd, searching for allies, for anyone who might rally behind us. The townsfolk stood in a fragile line between conviction and doubt, but within their hearts, I could see the flicker of Elena's impact still shimmering. I needed to fuel that fire. Remember your children. I cried, voice rising above the din. Remember your loved ones. She saved them. Think of Jeffrey. Think of little Ben. If we do nothing, we condemn the very spirit of kindness that we claim to cherish. But Lady Vivian's chilling laugh sliced through my urgent plea. What is kindness, Tamsin, when shackled with deceit? It is merely a guise for darkness to root itself in. Her disdain was palpable, a tangible wall erected to shield her from the warmth of compassion. The throng shifted uneasily. For every nod of agreement, there stood many who could not see beyond the smokescreen of fear. I felt the weight of my own insecurities crash against me, the incessant whispers of doubt creeping in. What if my voice was lost amidst the turbulence? What if Elena's sacrifice was in vain? But even the most fragile of hopes can bloom in the darkest of soils. Just then, Mrs. Maud stepped forward, her hands trembling but fierce. Lady Vivian, I have heard things. Whispered truths, she said, eyes blazing. Elena has brought life back when all seemed lost. If you choose to cast her aside, you cast aside our humanity. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, and I felt the swell begin anew. Warmth coursed through my veins, igniting my determination. One voice after another joined the outcry, each recalling moments of kindness woven tightly into Elena's narrative. It was a beautiful tapestry of remembrance clashing against the brewing storm of oppression, but just as hope threatened to break free, Henry stepped forward, silencing the building chorus with a flourish of his hand. Enough! He barked. If you lose sight of justice, you condemn us all. It is in the crucible where true virtue resides. At that moment, my heart sank further. Could we truly change the course of this unfolding tragedy? Amidst the words of dread and malice, I thought of Father Aidan's encouragement, how we needed to nurture the small glimmers, how we needed to seek out the heart behind the fears. Justice can be cruelly misconstrued, I shouted, the words bursting forth as clarity grew in my heart. If we pursue vengeance, we create monsters among us. Can we not break this cycle of accusation? Can we not be the guardians of each other's truth? For a fleeting second, the world stilled. Faces flickered with realization, camaraderie drawn together by Elena's unwavering spirit, but in that heartbeat, a piercing scream shattered the air around us, coming from the bleak tower looming in the distance. A flash of light erupted, painting the heavens gold before casting shadow across our gathering. The proclamation heralded in our ears, henceforth, the witch is to be put to trial at dawn. The dread clutched at my throat, fear unfurling like menacing black tendrils. We have until dawn, I managed to whisper, torn between the impending doom and the tremors of newfound resolve. I turned to Elena, her face softening with an unyielding grace, a spark of warmth amidst the cold finality encroaching. Don't surrender, I implored, tears brimming. We're not finished yet. And I in that moment of heartache, a pair of gloved hands reached out from behind the crowd. A stranger, face obscured under a dark cloak. You won't have to face this alone, a voice rasped, grating as gravel yet somehow resonant with empathy. I know the way to the magistrate's archives, the truths that don't see the light of day. Eyes flitted to one another, the crowd caught in a collective gasp. The sound rang like a bell of hope, a gentle nudge urging us to resist the darkening tide, and as the stranger stepped forward, revealing a flash of unfamiliar familiarity, no one could have foretold the twist that lay hidden within our community's fabric. The truth was murkier than we dared to imagine, and as the sky's hues deepened towards twilight, an unexpected revelation loomed, ethereal whispers of secrets from our past poised to rise and shape our fight, building toward dawn like the slow unfurling of petals. Who are you? I breathed, trepidation mingling with intrigue, as the heavy air thickened once more with uncertainty. The weight of the world pressed upon my chest, the hourglass slipping grains of time ever closer to a desperate reckoning full of promise, but shrouded in shadows yet to be named. The air was heavy with anticipation, each breath feeling like a plea for clarity amidst the chaos surrounding Elena's fate. The stranger stood before us, a seemingly ordinary figure draped in shadows, yet something in their stance suggested a history that bore the weight of more than just the present crisis. I couldn't shake the chill that ran down my spine, my heart ached with equal measures of hope and dread. Who are you? I asked again, swallowing hard as the urgency pushed me on. What truths do you carry? The figure tilted their head, eyes glinting beneath the hood. Truths buried long ago, they replied, voice low and rich, resonating through the gathering. The past intertwines with the present, and the stories we've silenced still echo in the blood of this town. A collective shiver passed through the crowd, rippling as though they too felt the pull of history. The moments of shared warmth I had glimpsed earlier flickered, overtaken by an unease that settled over us like an impending storm. Tell us. A voice called out, breaking the tension. It belonged to a young man, a boy really, clutching his mother's hand tightly. Tell us how we can save Elena. The stranger took a deliberate step forward, allowing a sliver of dim light to wash over their features. You must seek the truth hidden in the archives of the magistrate. There lies a ledger, inked with names of those wronged. It holds the key to the injustices fed by fear and forgotten by time. What names? I pressed, my heart racing. Each heartbeat echoed a sense of urgency that urged me onward, determined to unearth whatever it was he knew. Names long treated like shadows, the stranger continued, stepping closer. But they lived, breathed, and were persecuted too. Victims of this very fear, once thought sorcerers and witches, simply because of their kindness. A gasp rose from Mrs. Maud, her hand reaching to cover her mouth as she recognized the implication. The archivesme mined word as memories of whispered conversations within the confines of our lively market came flooding back. The townsfolk carried stories like treasured heirlooms, tales of those unjustly labeled as witches, lives lost to ignorance and fear. We need to uncover their stories, I murmured, the weight of the realization pushing against my chest. Will it be enough? Elena's voice sliced through the silence. She stood trapped in her chains, yet somehow, there was a resolute power radiating from her. Words alone can they unbind me. A flash of doubt struck me to my core. We will make it enough, I promised fiercely. This is your fight as much as it is ours, a noble ambition, to shatter that which binds you, the stranger mused. But first, you must decide. Are you willing to delve into the depths and face the darkness lurking in your own hearts? Suddenly, Lady Vivian's laughter pierced the air once more, echoing from the fringes where she'd taken up her brooding watch. Facing darkness? Child, you could be swallowed whole by it, or we might say the light might pierce through even the heaviest darkness, the stranger challenged, their presence grounding my fraying nerves. Your choice shapes the next dawn, but to turn away is to tread the empty path that keeps you all prisoners that I must know, I whispered, meeting the stranger's gaze. How can I find you again? Follow the stories you've encased in your heart, they replied, and for a moment, it felt as though the boundaries separating our worlds had shifted. I'll be watching, as always, a flicker in the night, and just like that, the figure melted back into the crowd's depths, leaving me stunned as they vanished from sight yet lingered as a memory, fraught with potential. Time is short, I breathed, urgency sweeping over me. We must reach the archives before dawn. Every moment here, more lies can suffocate the truth. As the town slowly roused itself from its stupor, I cast pleading eyes amongst the faces. Who will join me? We need to uncover the stories of those who roamed before us. Mrs. Maud stepped forward boldly, her determination palpable. I will. Every name matters. I remember my grandmother's whispers of the past. They cannot be forgotten. One by one, more stepped forth. The fear began to ebb, replaced by an ember of hope weaving through our collective resolve. The invisible chains of ignorance that had bound us began to thaw under the rising warmth of shared purpose. As we prepared to embark on our mission, I felt the weight of Elena's gaze resting on me, an anchor amidst the swelling tide, but before we could advance further, a figure broke through the crowd. Henry. His expression was one of genuine rage, the color draining from his face as he grasped the gravity of our intentions. Stop! He demanded, voice thick with apprehension. You don't know what you're conjuring. Those who dared speak the names of the lost were snuffed out in the night. My heartbeat thundered in my ears, an echo distorted by the specter of his warning. Did he mean to intimidate us or protect us? As the shadows lengthened, clawing their way toward us, a burst of thunder brought reluctant life to my veins. Then let us be the light that breaks through. I shouted back fiercely. But even as I spoke, a tremor of doubt coursed through me. What would we awaken in our quest for the truth? What depths of darkness still lurked hidden beneath the town's holy facade? I never imagined, I murmured, that the most heartbreaking lies could cost innocent lives, and in that moment, the sky crackled above us, a warning perhaps, but within its thunderous embrace, I felt the stirrings of something greater, a fight that might surely demand our very lives, but would hold the key to saving Elena and so many others lost in the whispers of time. Yet as the storm brewed, I could not shake the feeling that darkness had already begun to unfurl its wings once more. The thunder rumbled above, a low growl that mirrored the rising tension gripping the crowd. I thought back on Henry's warning, dark tales woven together with each name forgotten. As uncertainty loomed, I clenched my fists, determined not to let fear snuff out our flicker of hope. Is it not better to stand together as we face the storm? I called out, trying to rally the hearts of the townsfolk. Elena needs us. Their stories need us. A murmur swelled through the crowd, doubt mingling with the determination in their eyes. Yet, hope is a fragile thing, it can flicker and fade in an instant. Do you think you can challenge fate? Henry shook his head, rage mixed with an urgent desperation. You will be marked. Like they were, then let them mark us. I countered, feeling a surge of defiance rush through me. What do you fear more, the darkness of the past or the light that refuses to extinguish? A woman in the crowd, her gray hair cascading like a silver waterfall, stepped forward. Mrs. Malvern, who had been a silent observer for far too long, looked to me with eyes flooded with unshed tears. Child, I've lived long enough to know that sometimes courage is wearing the scars of lost battles proudly. I will stand with you. That moment was a seed planted in rich soil. One by one, others stepped closer, a fragile chain of humanity entwined with purpose began to take form. But not everyone felt emboldened. A figure broke into my periphery. Gideon, steadfast protector of the town, stood at the edge of the circle, arms crossed in resistance. His stance was rigid, a storm of emotions brewing in his demeanor. You think delving into the graves of the past will save Elena? It will only unleash what sleeps beneath, then we will face it together. We have light to share, stubborn as it may be. His piercing gaze held mine, and for a fleeting moment, I thought he saw my resolve. But an impenetrable wall lingered beneath his steel facade. You're young and foolish, he said at last, bitterness clinging to his words. You cannot comprehend the weight of what you're asking. That I may not comprehend everything, but I understand that love, compassion, and truth are worth fighting for. My voice rang out, fierce and unstoppable. Gideon stepped back, frustration radiating from him like heat in the sun. As darkness crept with its long fingers, I keenly sensed the fractures in the hearts of the people surrounding us. Each person carried untold grief, a weight that made them hesitant to dredge up what had been buried for so long. As we stood at the edge of this precipice, nothing could prepare me for the sorrowful scream that ripped through the air, distant, yet achingly close. Muffled cries began echoing through the streets, panic rising like smoke. Someone shrieked, and in an instant, the crowd splintered, scattering like leaves swept away by a storm. Elena! I called out, but it was too loud, too chaotic for my words to reach her. In chains, with heart racing, I pushed through the throngs of panic, the town square unraveling in chaos. The sounds of cries grew louder, punctuated by the clattering of objects falling to the ground, left behind by terrified hands. Amidst the calling, a figure emerged, a young girl with a tattered dress, face streaked with dirt. She stumbled towards me, fear cutting through the confusion like a knife. They've come for us. The shadows. Her voice was a ragged whisper, crumbling like brittle parchment. Who has come? I asked, feeling ice trickle down my spine. Before she could respond, another crash rang out, and from the depths of the darkness emerged silhouettes, figures cloaked in twilight shrouds, faces obscured and features twisted in malevolence. With every step they took, dread wove its way through the hearts of the town. That we are the echoes. You have awakened what was meant to remain silent. They cried, their voices a cacophony of lost souls. Run! I screamed, but it was too late. The figure of Elena loomed in my mind as reality shifted, and that haunting scream spilled for the dangerous reminder that we may have to pay the ultimate price to bring forth the truth for her salvation. As the figures advanced, I felt Gideon's hand grasp my shoulder, a last tether to the world I knew, and in that moment, a new understanding formed. I was tangled in an impossible knot of fear, but we were all caught in this struggle, together. I urged again, longing for unity. If we stand together, we can confront them. We can face this darkness. But as shadows stretched and the cries echoed in my ears, I realized the true feat lay ahead. The storm I had sought to harness was more formidable than I had ever imagined, and it was only just beginning to unfurl its secrets. Would we face not only the darkness outside but the turmoil swirling in our hearts? We would need more than courage. We would need to navigate the labyrinth of our own fears and recognize the sacrifices that inequality demanded. And as the shadows wrapped around us, whispering our darkest fears, a realization hit me with tragic clarity: there was no going back now. The past was rising, and the truth we sought might very well be our undoing. The dim glow of dwindling torches cast eerie shadows against the cobblestones as panic surged around me. The town square resembled a fragmented mirror, its spirit shattered by encroaching darkness. A flurry of terrified faces danced past me, whispers of despair blending with the chaos, while the malevolent figures drew nearer, their whispers coaxing forth fears buried deep within every heart. Stop! I pleaded, gripping Gideon's arm tightly. We can't let them break us apart. We must hold the line. He glared at the advancing figures, tension palpable between us. Standing together won't change our fate if we aren't prepared for what they bring. This darkness. He trailed off, looking as though a flood of memories threatened to drown him. From somewhere within the tumult, I glimpsed Mrs. Malvern, still steadfast in her resolve. Her presence was a flicker of warmth, a reminder that even in the depths of despair, support could be found. I nodded toward her, hoping our silent connection could anchor us in this sea of uncertainty, together. I shouted again, as I began to piece together fragments of a strategy. Confronting this darkness would require more than just the hearts of those who cared. We needed their stories, the very voices that sparked the legends of the past. As the shadows crept closer, I took a deep breath, pushing down my instincts to flee. We share our truths, I called out, grasping for anything that could turn despair into solidarity. Elena deserves our courage. Our stories have the power to bind us, to give us strength against the darkness that seeks to swallow us whole. A ripple of recognition passed through the crowd. Hesitant faces began to turn toward one another, memories flickering like candle flames in their eyes. But with every flicker came more anguish. What if our stories are what brought this darkness? Someone whimpered. What if we're to blame? The shadows tightened their grip, and my heart sank. For each account spoken, the specters wriggled closer. Their whispers grew louder, promises twisted into threats, pressing against us like a vice. Your secrets belong to us, they hissed, and your tales will turn to ash.no. I shouted, defiance surging through me. We own our stories. They are our strength. I feared I was alone in my fire. Doubt slithered between us like an unwelcome serpent. Then, from the fringes, a flicker of movement caught my eye. It was Thomas, a boy no older than 10, clutching a crumpled piece of parchment. He stepped forward, eyes bright with innocence yet lined with the burden of knowledge. I know of a story, he stammered, voice quaking but unwavering. Please, Thomas. I urged, the shadows halting in their advance, their curiosity piqued. Tell it to us. We need your light. He began to recite, words tumbling out like stones dislodged from a dam. They say the keeper of shadows was once a guardian of peace. Long ago, he protected us from harm, but betrayal turned his heart. We lost our way, broke our bond with him as if summoned by the very weight of his words. The shadows hesitated, their forms shifting. The tension crackled, and for a terrifying moment, I thought we might lose this fleeting moment of reprieve. Your story is powerful, I affirmed, willing the townsfolk to recognize the truth in Thomas' voice. We can bring back the keeper. If we share our lost tales and speak our truth, we might earn his grace. Henry, still simmering with resentment, interjected, what good is a guardian when he abandoned us? How do we know he even cares? Because sometimes, the ones who seem to forsake us do so to teach us a lesson, Mrs. Malvern replied softly as she stepped to Thomas' side. But we must remember our humility. The keeper was woven into our fabric. He is not lost forever. The specters thinned, whispering amongst themselves, caught in the wave of our burgeoning hope. It felt as though the night had paused, a breath held in anticipation. Everyone rallied as memories began to surface, hesitant at first, then pouring forth as rich tributaries merging toward a shared ocean. Stories of betrayal, courage, love, and loss reverberated around us like a haunting melody, a pact forged in the darkest of hours. Yet, just as unity seemed to swell, the shadows erupted, shrieking vehemently amidst our gathering storm of words. You dare awaken the past? They howled, the air crackling with both rage and fear. Then prepare to bear the weight of its return. Suddenly, a sharp agony pierced my chest, a jolt of pain that felt almost familiar, as though the shadows had reached into my soul. I faltered, collapsing to my knees, bile rising in my throat. Gideon knelt beside me, eyes wide with concern. What's happening? In that moment of vulnerability, shards of old memories flared bright in my mind, a silhouette, someone I had lost, someone dear, their laughter echoing alongside the shadows. I gasped for breath as realization dawned, an elusive whisper that threatened to drown me. Let it go. Gideon urged, gripping my hand. You can fight this. But the weight of the past enveloped me, its grip tightening, and I sensed a new fear rising amongst us, a fear that whatever had awakened could expose what lay dormant in the hearts of our own village. Will our tales be enough? I wondered aloud, the thrill of impending revelation clawing at my chest. Then, just as I teetered on the brink between consciousness and shadow, a figure emerged from the once receding shadis. A cloaked silhouette stood aloft, eyes shimmering like tears caught in moonlight, and in a voice that resonated through the air, the keeper spoke. Awakened you have, yet will you bear the consequences? In that question hung the secrets of our past, poised to unravel everything we thought we'd known, and I realized with mounting dread, the cost of facing the darkness might take more than just our courage. As whispers of unknown destinies wrapped around me, one thought consumed me: who among us had the strength to bear the truth, and at what cost would it come? A stunned silence fell over the square, heavy like a thundercloud pregnant with rain. The keeper's presence loomed before us, both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Shadows danced behind him in chaotic harmony, and my heart raced as I wrestled with the weight of his question. Consequences. No one had spoken of those. We were blinded by hopes and stories, not realizing they were threads that could unravel the precarious tapestry we had woven amid chaos. From the depths of the crowd came a murmur, then a ripple of fear, palpable and raw. What consequences? Came the shivering voice of a woman whose face I didn't recognize. What do you want from us? The keeper's gaze moved like a comet across the faces illuminated by the residual light of our torches. I seek the truth, but tread cautiously. For truths carry the burdens of the past closer to the surface than carefully buried memories. His voice reverberated through the town square, stirring something deep within each of us that I could see fear flicker like candlelight across the townsfolk's faces. Their stories had become their armor, but now, the very act of sharing might unravel their protection. They had fought to reclaim their truths, but now they faced the specter of their pasts threatening to swallow them whole. Please, keeper, a man stepped forward, desperation etched across his features. We've lived in shadow long enough. We seek redemption, a chance to right the wrongs of our history. The keeper tilted his head, narrowing his shimmering eyes into slits. Redemption often requires sacrifice, he intoned. Do you understand what you seek? I exchanged a glance with Gideon, whose grip on my hand tightened. We understand. We want to break free from this darkness that haunts us. I shouted, though a tremor threaded through my voice, then tell the truth you hide. He commanded, his voice rising as shadows began to dance furiously around him, their tumultuous energy crackling against the air. What do you fear most? What have you done to warrant my absence? The echoes of our collective past swirled, rising with a chill that wrapped itself around our hearts like a serpent's coil. I looked at the familiar faces around my neighbors, friends, once vibrant spirits, now shadowed in regret. I began to piece together fragments of their whispered secrets, resentments buried like unmarked graves, betrayals seasoned with a spice of pain. Mrs. Malvern stepped forward, her voice shaking yet resolute. We lost our way in our ambition, in our desire for power. We allowed fear to cloud our hearts, leading to choices that divided us. We thought we could live without the keeper, but instead, we became lost. The crowd tensed, the weight of her confession settling over us like damp fog. Each word struck like a nail, vibrating through the silence that followed. But in her honesty simmered a glimmer of strength, a spark that ignited embers in others. Faces turned, shoulders squared, courage beginning to rise. Then, amidst the dawning unity, a voice emerged from the shadows, the unmistakable timbre of Henry. What if we are not the only ones to blame? He shouted, fervor rushing through his veins. What if there's more to the keeper's abandonment than we know? What if he betrayed us first? Gasps echoed around the square, and I could feel the air thicken with doubt. Shadows curled closer, and guilt twisted into our hearts like roots entwined. The flicker of hope was extinguishing, choked by blame that I lost a brother to the darkness. Henry continued, eyes blazing. Perhaps those we've lost were sacrificed at his feet. If we lay bare the truth, what darkness might he resurrect from our secrets? As fear coiled tighter in my chest, I could feel the keeper's displeasure intensifying. You accuse me of crimes unyielding, but know this, young man, the sins of the past cannot simply be laid at my doorstep. I carry a weight born from the choices of those who believed they could navigate despair without love. In that moment, I realized what was at stake. The labyrinth of our stories, the tangled web of hurt, loss, longing, and betrayal was unraveling. Would we face the horrifying truths buried deep within, or would we cower back into the shadows, allowing our fears to consume us yet again, as the crowd whispered, eyes darting from each other to the keeper, I sensed the urgency hanging like a storm cloud. It was time to confront not just our past but the blindness that had led us into darkness. My breath caught as I thought of Elena, my heart ached with the thought of all we had lost. And then, the unthinkable happened. A child's laughter tinkled through the suffocating air, bright and pure, ringing like bells drowned in sorrow. It belonged to Thomas, who drew closer, clasping a makeshift lantern, the faint glow illuminating his youthful face. "But what about love?" he asked quietly, innocence stark against the turmoil. "Don't we still have that? It can fight shadows, can't it?" Those simple words struck true, gathering into hope, radiating amidst the uncertainty. But as we began to grasp that glimmer, the shadows snarled in anger, swirling rapidly, snatching up voices. The keeper raised his hand, and despite the shadow's chaos, a stillness fell as he regarded the child. "Innocent, you are. But no, the light of love often brings not just warmth but reveals the true shape of darkness." With that, there was a crack, a split in the air that reverberated like the tolling of a bell. The ground trembled beneath us, a fissure appearing at the foot of the keeper, deepening until it threatened to split the town asunder. My heart lurched as I realized we had awakened a peril greater than we had imagined. Then came the ominous words that sent a chill along every spine. "Honor your stories, face them or be lost forever. What lives within you is waiting to be laid bare." And just as the shaking lessened, before I could process his words, another figure emerged from the darkness. Familiar yet changed, a warmth enveloped me, and my breath caught in my throat as I recognized her, a long-lost friend whose smile had once been my guiding light. But why was she here? What did she know that could alter everything? As realization washed over me, dread exploded in my chest. The past had returned, and with it, a new reality. Would we find the strength within to confront the pain, or had we awakened a fear that could destroy us all? As the figure stepped into the flickering light, clarity collided with confusion. I hadn't seen Elena in years, not since she vanished into the folds of our town's darker days. Her silhouette was slightly frayed, but it was unmistakably her, soft curls untamed and a steadfast gaze that held the power of distant storms. "What are you doing here?" I gasped, my voice a mixture of disbelief and longing, tinged with the sour notes of fear. The crowd's murmurs faltered, pausing as they turned to witness this unexpected apparition amidst the chaos. "That I came for the truths we buried," she said quietly, her voice laced with long-held sorrows. The world around us dimmed, shadows clawing closer as if drawn by the gravity of her presence. It felt like the air had condensed, pressing down on us, thick with unspoken words. Gideon shifted beside me, the heat from his body a comfort against the cold uncertainty pulsing from the crowd. "Do you remember what you promised, Elena?" Henry's voice cut through, laced with an edge of accusation, as he pointed toward her. "What you swore before you left us? What truths did you know then that you chose to keep hidden?" Her eyes flickered with pain, and for a heartbeat, the ghost of her past nearly unhinged. "I didn't choose this, Henry," she countered, a quiver in her tone betraying her calm facade. "I was lost in understanding what it meant to carry secrets when love demands honesty." In that moment, I could feel the weight of our histories crashing together: Henry's betrayal, Elena's disappearance, and the gathering darkness around the keeper. Each story fractured like glass laid upon a pedestal, waiting for the right moment to shatter. "Your return has not unraveled our pain," someone from the crowd shouted, the voice unrecognizable yet steeped in bitterness. "You left, and we were cast into shadows. What have you done for us?" The vibrancy of hope threatened to suffocate beneath a tide of resentment. Elena's expression flickered from hurt to determination. "I left to find answers, to understand why we were abandoned. I thought I could bring light back, but instead I ran from my own truth." "Your truth?" I echoed, my own anger bubbling forth, mixing with the ache of an old connection. "What do you even know of our pain?" "Everything." Her voice resonated, a soft yet powerful wave that cut through the tension. "I learned what happened from a distance. I should have returned, but fear kept me rooted in the shadows while the darkness continued to consume you. With each word hung heavy in the air, I sensed a transformation taking place within the crowd, a slow metamorphosis from anger to understanding, tempered by the rawness of shared experience. Thomas stood for love, and here was Elena, now standing for rediscovery, a bridge formed between our pasts and the uncertain present. Then we must all face the consequences of our truths, I said suddenly, the realization unfurling. We cannot let fear dictate our narratives any longer. Elena, if you know something, if you possess a part of our history we are blind to, we must share it. My voice took on an urgency that surged through the pulsating fear. Elena nodded slowly, her gaze sweeping across the faces stricken with uncertainty. There's a legend, opportunities lost in the dark writings of the Keeper's connection to our ancestors. But the truth lies deeper than mere legend, it weaves through the very fabric of us, hidden in the hearts of those who vanished, including my brother. Gasps echoed, shock rippling through the crowd, a stagnant tide being disrupted. Your brother? I stammered, the sudden revelation striking me. He was the Oni's, she interrupted, her voice frail but fierce. And his fate is tied to the reason behind the Keeper's silence. Suddenly, the ground trembled anew beneath us, urging a cacophony of whispers and gasps around the square. Each of our stories carries echoes of what we've lost. The Keeper reveals not just the good, but the shadows that linger when love is absent, and now, we stand on the brink of awakening them all. Confusion seethed, frustration building within me. But what does that mean? Will we simply unravel each other with our truths, or will it open wounds we cannot heal? Is this the price of our redemption? The Keeper's gaze, ever watchful, bore into my soul. Redemption demands sacrifice, yes, but it also begets growth. Only through vulnerability do we possess the power to forge a tomorrow untethered from the dark chains of yesterday. Yet, in that moment, I felt a sudden cold chill creep into the marrow of my bones, a sense of foreboding that something vital was at hand. Would revealing our truths give us freedom, or would the rawness splinter us further into discord? As I strained to grasp the potential of Elena's words, a shriek sliced through the night. Look! Someone cried out, horror transfixed on their face, pointing towards the newly revealed fissure where shadows hissed like serpents. Something stirred within the darkness, an energy coiling, ready to consume. The Keeper's eyes widened slightly, the first hint of surprise cracking through his stoic demeanor. You must choose, now. Face the shadows or succumb to the darkness once again. I felt the pull of fear static against my skin, the urgency of the encroaching horror mingling with a fierce determination to fight. In that moment, I knew what awaited us was not just our past but the darkest corners of our souls demanding to be unmasked. Resolute yet trembling, I looked to the faces around me, they mirrored my own struggle as we stood at the edge of our own confronting realities. Could our sought-after truths ignite a path forward, transforming fear into the power of unyielding unity? Or had we inadvertently summoned forth a shadow darker than we could ever have imagined? Elena's return was meant to signify healing, yet it only deepened the gravity of our collective fate. And as the darkness surged closer, ready to engulf us all, I realized this confrontation was about to unravel in ways I could never have foreseen. With a collective breath, we stood together, each heart racing as we prepared to face the shadows of our truths, our breaths barely quiet as adrenaline coursed through USA's storm about to break. The air shuddered in anticipation as the fissure widened, releasing a swift stream of icy air that sliced through me. Static danced across my skin, it felt as if the very essence of fear had come alive, wrapping around our group like a serpent ready to strike. Elena's words hung in the air like a half-formed spell, echoes of vulnerability promising redemption and yet threatening destruction. Get back! Gideon shouted, pulling me closer, trying to shield me with his body. The crowd shifted, uncertainty sparking panic, people stumbled backward, eyes fixed on the darkness that writhed beneath our feet, a vortex swirling with memories we were not ready to confront. But I refused to be swallowed by that fear, not now, not after all we had endured. Taking a step forward, I grasped Elena's arm tightly. We need to confront whatever lies in there. If it's tied to our stories, then we have to face it together, her eyes blazed with a mix of gratitude and unspoken dread. "You're right. We can't let it consume us or allow it to take another life." Her voice was steady now, a thread of courage binding us in this moment of chaos. Henry stepped forward, his face drawn but impassioned. "This is the moment we break the cycle. Together, we can draw strength from our shared pain." There was a tremor in his voice, but the fire of his conviction ignited something in those around us. One by one, faces turned to one another, searching for reassurance, for hope amidst despair. As if responding to that unspoken bond, the fissure shimmered, revealing fleeting glimpses of figures locked in eternal sorrow, lost souls whose stories were woven into the shadows beneath our town. I could almost hear their cries, the echoes of lives extinguished before their true potential could flourish, and I felt sorrow stab at my chest. "What do you see?" Elena whispered, her breath ghosting over my ear. "Regrets," I replied, my voice a soft tremor. "These are not just shadows, they are memories, voices we buried under the weight of our silence." The keeper loomed closer now, his presence heavy like a fog wrapping around us. "You cannot face what you do not understand. Knowledge is what gives strength to stand against the darkness." His dark eyes bored into my own, challenging me to acknowledge the truths festering inside. "Then show us." I shouted into the void, each word infused with desperation. "Reveal the truth so we can fight together." A rumble emerged from the depths of the fissure, vibrating through the very ground, and, from within the shadows, a figure began to materialize, swirling as if born from the darkness itself. Hope mingled with dread, each heartbeat rattling in my chest like a drum echoing the rhythm of impending doom. "You dare call upon the lost?" The apparition hissed, a voice like rustling leaves and echoing sorrow. "You want the truth that breeds suffering? Then you shall bear witness." I clenched Elena's hand tighter as a wave of familiar anguish washed over me, something deep and personal. Within the depths of the shadows, I could see flashes me father, eyes wide with regret, a scene frozen in time where I could never reach him, my mother covering her face in desolation as she watched us slip away into the hollow spaces our secrets left behind. "Stop. You don't have to show us this." I cried out defiantly, but the voice continued to weave the tale, unraveling years of grief and loss, pulling us into a web of shared experience that felt both grounding and unbearable. Elena gasped beside me, glimpsing her own haunting past the day she had learned of her brother's fate. The moment his absence fell like a shroud over her heart. Tears glazed her eyes, yet the fire of determination ignited within her. The crowd was becoming restless, oscillating between the maelstrom of regret and the spark of resolve. "What have we done?" I whispered, guilt creeping into the corners of my mind. Was it our choice to bury these stories away? Only we can choose to face this. Henry's voice broke through, firm, the tenacity palpable. "We were too afraid, blinded by the weight of loss to understand our own power." Suddenly, energy surged, crackling through the air, and I felt a sense of unity combine our hearts, invigorating us with the strength to reclaim our past. We had all lost, but together, could we find a way to heal? Boldly, I stepped towards the edge of the darkness, voice unwavering. "We are here now. We refuse to be defined by your shadows. We are the ones who will shape our present." The ethereal figure recoiled, pain evident in its haunting visage. "The truth may set you free, but it comes with sacrifice, and every choice carries loss." The keeper watched us, a flicker of something softer breaking through his tough exterior. To face what lies buried within is to seize your power while understanding the weight of consequence. As the final words echoed around us, the darkness pulsed violently, an angry beast realizing it was being confronted. In that moment of collective defiance, I realized our pasts were not just echoes of despair, they were seeds waiting for sunlight, nourishing us and reminding us of who we were meant to be. But just as I felt hope begin to burgeon anew, a piercing wail erupted from the depths of the fissure, an agonizing cry that drowned my thoughts in dread. A shadow, larger than life, surged up from the darkness, a reflection of our greatest fears manifesting right before our eyes. In that terrifying moment, as it surged towards us, I grasped the truth more profoundly than ever before. we had only just begun to unearth the buried echoes within, and the darkness was formidable and wrathful. Our confrontation had only awakened it, rage bubbling forth like a boiling pot, ready to consume us all. And as I stood, trembling on the precipice of light and shadow, I understood there was no turning back now. The depths were calling, and we had no choice but to answer. I braced myself as the darkness coiled before us, a whirling storm of malice lurking just beyond our reach, fueled by the trauma of ancient wounds left to fester. Every head turned toward me, eyes wide with disbelief, awaiting my next move. Somehow, despite the weight of despair, a flicker of determination sparked in my chest. We could not allow the past to devour us, together. I shouted, raising my voice to drown out the chaos. We are not just shadows. We are memories shining through the darkness. We will face what we fear. Elena stepped closer to me, her grip firm on my wrist, as if we were tethered by some unseen force. To defeat the shadow, we must confront our truths. They want us to recoil, to deny our pain. But we have fought too long in silence, yes, cried Mrs. Malvern, stepping forward. We were shackled by fear. But we can face our stories, reclaim our light. She took a deep breath, her expression fierce, illuminating the space around her. Henry, too, took a step towards the burgeoning shadow. We cannot allow our history to bind us. We paid the price for our ignorance, but we can turn it into understanding. His voice reverberated with an urgency that resonated with the crowd. A wave of energy coursed through us as voices began to blend into a harmonious chant of solidarity, reclaiming lost narratives. It wasn't just our voices, it became a chant woven with the heartbeats of the lost, threading through each whisper of despair to create a tapestry of resilience. We are the stories that break the silence. We will not be defined by our pain. We are love. We are hope. The dark figure writhed, screeches spilling forth as it shrank momentarily from the combined will of our voices, but it regained strength, pulsing like an enraged beast, drawing ever closer. You are fools to think you can unearth what has been buried, it rasped, twisting its form as if struggling against the light. Your pain is what binds you. No, I countered, my voice rising above the cacophony. Our pain does not bind us but strengthens us. It teaches us the value of truth, the cost of silence. Together, we bring our shadows into the light, for in doing so, we can rise above. With those final words echoing through the square, the crowd surged forward, abandoning fear. We stepped toward the dark vortex, forming a unit where our stories converged, our hearts synchronized in shared intention. As we closed the gap, each whispered truth buoyed us, crafting a wall of light against the encroaching void. I felt the warmth of familiarity radiating from the faces surrounding me. There were the scars of loss, yes, but beneath that pain burned the raw embers of resilience, and then, in the heart of our gathering light, I spotted movement, a figure stepping through the shadow, gliding toward us, a spectral form that loomed large but also seemed oddly familiar. My breath hitched as clarity dawned, the image of my father, his eyes filled with sorrow, holding the pain of regrets buried beneath years of silence. Tamsin, he murmured, his voice a haunting echo of tenderness woven into anguish. I have sought you, and I have failed to protect you, Dad. My voice quivered, caught between the overwhelming yearning to rush into his embrace and the fear he represented, the past I was trying to escape. I've missed you. I looked closer, he urged, and suddenly, my heart swelled with new understanding. Behind his form, I saw countless forgotten faces manifest, the victims of our collective silence, the lovers, the parents, the friends lost to neglect and accusation. Each visage bore the mark of a story waiting to be told. In that moment of clarity, I realized something vital. They were not here to bind me, but to break me open, to free me from the shackles of fear that had suffocated my voice. My heart thundered, each beat unraveling the fabric of lies and half-truths that had defined my world for so long. Let us share your stories, I implored, feeling the churning darkness quiver at our words. Release them into the light, and we will stand together. The shadowy figure writhed, anger morphing into despair as it absorbed our collective illumination. You think you can cast me away? It howled, the volume of its fury palpable. You will rue the day you unearth these truths, cast aside our fears. I screamed back, a final surge of energy coursing through me, a new fire igniting in my soul. We welcome the truth. We embrace the pain that comes with it. For every story shared is a light born from the ashes of darkness. The vortex trembled, the shadows contorted into clenched fists before exploding outward as our voices crescendoed, shattering the confines of the night. We surged together, the light triumphing over despair as the severed storylines interlaced, spilling warmth and acceptance into our very core, and then the darkness blinked, opened as if allowing us passage. You could have silenced it, the figure hissed, fading. You chose to face the shadows instead, and now the keeper shall awaken. As the shadow dissipated, a mysterious calm swept through the square. I felt warmth wash over me as if the air itself were embracing our newfound connection. My father's image lingered, not as an embodiment of regret but as a beacon of remembrance, a reminder that pain could be transformed. But just then, a deep, resonant voice echoed. It seemed to flash through the depths of the ground beneath us, reverberating through our bones. You have chosen to face what casts the deepest shadows, and now, in your unity, the Keeper awakens. As the last of the darkness dissipated, a radiant aura began to rise from the fissure, illuminating the square with a blinding light that painted our faces in vibrant hues. The air brimmed, filled with whispers of the lost, of secrets and stories entwined, freeing the voices long held in silence. Elena, I breathed softly, turning to her with newfound conviction. We have done it together. We will move forward united, unbound by guilt, lifted by love. Together, we will let light in, and as our voices resonated through the morning mist, we faced the dawn, standing side by side as a testament to resilience. No longer were we prisoners in shadows today, we would become the protectors of light. As the sun broke over the horizon, bathing us in its warm embrace, I realized finally what it meant to unearth the deepest truths, to bear witness not only to the shadows that sought to devour us but to each other, and in that moment of unity, before the gathered townsfolk, I uttered words that embodied my journey, a promise etched in time. Today, we embrace our shared history, and together, we step into the light of a new dawn, forever bearing the weight of love over fear. The future was a tapestry of stories waiting to be woven, stories of kindness, pain, joy, and redemption. And as I stood there, every face reflecting the glow of new beginnings, I knew this was only the start. Together, I whispered, my heart full, my spirit soaring. Forever, and somehow, against the echoes of all we had endured, the sun's first rays felt like wings wrapping around us, an enduring promise that in the depths of darkness, love would always prevail.